anyone, anywhere, anytime. The trademark of future UFC Hall of Famer Donald Cowboy Cerrone, and a true old-school mindset. For some, stepping in on short notice serves as their opportunity to get into the UFC, but others just love to fight like Cowboy and are willing to step in versus anyone at any weight. Every weekend, we see a fighter or two drop off of each UFC card, and I decided to track every one of their results throughout the year. This is a breakdown of all 43 short notice UFC fights in 2022. These are fights taken under 31 days notice, and I use Big Marcel's Twitter for fight announcements. Let's go. Alright, so here's my graphic with our first half of the short notice fighters. I'll just touch on a few here and there, but just as an overview, in the top left you see the day's notice before their fight. Their opponent is to the right of that, and their odds and results are color-coded in the bottom row. You see a lot of red, a lot of losses, mainly underdogs, which is what you would expect, but when I go through the odds analysis at the end, you'll see where the true biggest lock in MMA originates from. Through February, short notice fighters were 3-10, with the 3 losing fighters being Sam Alvey, Blood Diamond, and Michael Gilmore. This is when I really began to notice this trend, and I started betting on these fights consistently. Ludovic Klein became the first short notice underdog to win in 2022, as there were 0-10 before he beat Devontae Smith on 9 days notice. 0-10, and this is just the beginning of the stat too, stay tuned. Through March, short notice fighters were 5-16, a 24% win percentage, with 4 out of the 5 winners being clear betting favorites. While it didn't work out for most of them, fighters like Christian Rodriguez, Moicano, Bobby Green, and Terrence McKinney all raised their profile because of their will to step up no matter the challenge. Here are the most recent short notice fighters that are most likely the freshest in our minds. Most of them are fighters making their UFC debuts, and these have been good spots to take advantage of as well. At the end of June, we saw all of our trends continue, with the majority of favorites winning their short notice fights and underdogs losing theirs. After Dan Argueta's hard-fought loss to Damon Jackson in June, the overall UFC record for short notice fighters was 8-23, still just above a 25% win percentage. There were a few outlier upsets in the recent bunch, and that's a good reminder that nothing is ever a 100% lock in MMA. You still have to pick your spots. Mason Jones lost as a -425 favorite to the man himself, Ludovic Klein. David Onama lost in a war with Landwehr as a -340 favorite, and Hamdi Abdelwahab announced himself in the UFC by winning as a +175 dog on 12 days notice. Other than a few outliers here and there, this has been one of the most reliable betting opportunities in all of MMA. There aren't many 70+% stats to follow that hit consistently like that, and that's just the overall short notice record. Alright, we've reached the point of the video where the true lock in MMA lies. Short notice underdogs overall are 2-23 on the year, an 8% win percentage. So over 90% of the time that you fade these guys, whether it's a chalk price or close underdogs, it's been an extremely consistent way to make some money. The only 2 winners were Ludovic Klein back in March, and not again until Hamdi at the end of July. It's very rare that these fighters win in these spots, and even in these matchups, their opponents weren't cream of the crop fighters. We can see that the majority of short notice winners are the betting favorites heading into the fight, as they have won 64% of their 14 fights so far. Pick'ems, so odds ranging from +115 to -115, were 0-3 until Christian Quinones beat Khalid Taha on September 3rd. And the short notice underdogs have been the true ticket cashers amongst the group people. So look to use these guys as your parlay pieces or even as straight bets if the line's close. For the most part, the betting odds are really what you want to follow, as something like the number of days notice has played out as expected. Fighters that step up on 1 to 10 days notice won a quarter of their 24 fights, 11 to 20 days notice won 4 out of their 14 fights, and 21 to 30 days notice have won 2 out of their 5 fights. So it's pretty straightforward stuff. Obviously, the more time that you have to prepare, the higher chance that you have to beat your opponent with a full camp. Following people on Twitter like Marcel, who announce every fight, and checking bestfightodds.com is a good way to jump on these early lines. The total results for all 43 short notice UFC fights through September 3rd, 2022 is 12-31, a 28% win percentage. Out of the 12 winners, 9 were clear betting favorites heading into their short notice fights. Pick and choose your spots, of course, but this is a clear stat with a pretty good sample size across 8 months of UFC action. I'll be tracking this stat and some others like this across the rest of the year, so check me out on Twitter at crispy_MMA for more. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel too while you're there. Thanks for checking out the video. Take care, everybody.